Hello everyone, No One of Consequence here with episode 9 of my high-level Dungeons & Dragons campaign playthrough. And here is the player character roster. There are 7 characters being run by 5 different players. And this is a roster of both human and animal NPCs associated with the party. Where we left off last time, the characters had gathered up to discuss which way they should explore next. Gorbadoc even suggested checking out the access chute and going down to the next level. However, none of the other characters were ready for that yet. There was still too much unexplored area on this level, and they didn't want anything dangerous coming down behind them. The characters did, however, return to the large room with the access chute and began following the broad corridor leading south from there. The wide corridor soon turned west and narrowed. The way ahead was also unlit, so the characters had to rely on their own light again. Arriving at another 4-way intersection, the characters discovered a huge pile of trash in the hall leading north, so of course Gorbadoc could not resist digging through it. And as usual in such situations, Gorb's efforts paid off. He dug this item out from the garbage pile and immediately started fiddling around with it, trying to figure out what it does. Now, although Gorb does not know it yet, the item is a blaster pistol. Whenever the characters find a tech item, the module provides a flow chart to help determine if and when they figure out how to use it. The DM begins with the block marked Start and asks the player to roll a d10. The result can be modified by things like a high intelligence score. The player continues rolling until they arrive at either the result Item Destroyed or Finish. Finish means that the character has successfully learned how to operate the item. At one point during his experimentation, Gorb got the result Charge/Use Wasted. In this case, it meant that he accidentally fired the weapon. I randomly determined the direction, and fortunately the shot went harmlessly off into the darkness to the north. But eventually Gorbadoc got to the finish result, and he now knew how to operate the blaster pistol. Another thing I should point out, every tech item in this adventure is powered by the same generic battery disc. Each disc can have as many as 6 charges on it before it becomes depleted. A gauge with a needle indicator shows how many charges remain on any particular power disc. In this case, the power disc in Gorb's new blaster pistol had a full 6 charges. However, since he accidentally fired off a shot while experimenting, it now had only 5 shots remaining. Of course, depleted power discs can be replaced with a new one, if the characters have any. Next, the characters investigated a nearby card-accessed room, which turned out to be a living space. This space was much larger than others the characters had explored, leading them to believe that it had been occupied by a higher-ranking person. However, a thorough search of the area yielded nothing of value. Continuing on, the characters arrived at a push-button-operated door. Only when they opened it did the characters realize that they had circled around through the entire level of the ship and had arrived back at the police robot station they discovered in the first episode. Once again, the police robots demanded to see an access card, and this time Garrett pushed his way forward, holding out his gray card. The lead robot scanned it and told Garrett that he was permitted to enter. However, the other characters would have to wait outside. The police station room was dark, so Varys quickly handed Garrett his flame sword to have something to see by. The police robots turned back to whatever they were doing before and completely ignored Garrett. Now, the module states that possessing a high-level card does not allow the holder to actually command the police robots. They have their own independent programming focused on maintaining law and order. Having a high-level card only means that the police robots will not interfere with the holder so long as they are not breaking the law. This system prevents anyone with a high-level card from using the police robots for their own personal agenda. Garrett now entered through a card reader door on the east wall and found what appeared to be a robot repair facility. The walls were lined with deactivated police robots, and a small worker robot was busily engaged in repairing one of them. The worker robot ignored Garrett, so he moved towards another card reader door on the south wall of this room. This door opened into what appeared to be a storage room with stacks of metal crates in it, but Garrett also noticed several loose objects lying around on the floor. First, there were a few dozen objects like the one on the left, which were the size and shape of a large egg. Garrett noticed that they came in 4 different colors: red, green, blue, and fluorescent orange. Garrett also saw a stack of a dozen fully charged power discs, which he quickly pocketed. Garrett's player assumed that the egg-shaped objects were probably something like a grenade, although of course Garrett the character would not know that. He did, however, assume that they must be some kind of weapon, since they were locked up in a police station. He also guessed that the crates in here contained lots more of those things, so he decided to take one with him. Garrett was shoving one of the metal crates out of the storeroom when an active police robot entered the repair facility. It saw what Garrett was doing and told him to immediately return the crate to the storeroom, or else he would be placed under arrest. So Garrett pulled the crate back inside the storeroom, and the door slid shut behind him. However, Garrett did pocket several of each color of the egg-shaped objects lying around on the floor, hoping that the police robots would not physically search him when he tried to leave the area. Unfortunately, since Garrett was not openly carrying anything, the police robots did not detain him on his way out. Once back out in the hallway, Garrett told the others to quickly move around the corner and out of sight of the police station door. And if you're enjoying the story so far, please remember to hit the like button. Gorbadoc stood watch at the corner to make sure that they were not being followed, while Garrett took several of the egg-shaped objects out of his pockets to show to the others. Once again, Gorbadoc volunteered to try to figure out how the thing works. So Garrett gave one to Gorb, although I do not now remember which color it was. Vera stayed with Gorb, while Garrett stood a short distance away. Everyone else ducked around the corner in the hallway, just in case something bad happened. Again, the players instinctively knew that these were grenades, and they didn't want to be anywhere near Gorbadoc while he experimented with it. However, this time Gorb successfully figured it out without any mishaps. The twist dial is a timer to set the delay before the grenade explodes. It has 3 different settings: a 3, 4, and 5 second delay. The push button actually arms the grenade so that it will detonate after the set amount of time passes. Encouraged by Gorbadoc's success, Niobe the cleric decided to learn how to operate a grenade as well. Since she is typically not in the front line, she figured that knowing how to throw the grenades would be helpful. So she asked Garrett to give her a blue grenade, which he did. Her player then began rolling on the tech experimentation table. She even got a bonus on each roll because Gorb had already figured it out and could help explain it to her. But even so, Niobe still managed to set the thing off in her hand. As you can see, everyone nearby was caught in the blast radius. Fortunately, blue is only a sleeping gas grenade. It does not explode or cause any physical damage. But as it turned out, Niobe, Varys, and Gorbadoc's dog all failed their saving throw versus poison, and so they collapsed to the floor in a deep sleep. There was nothing the other characters could do except drag them into a nearby living quarters room and wait for them to wake up. The sleep duration is a random rule for each victim, but it can last anywhere from 20 to 50 minutes. All right, well, that's all for now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. If you can, leave a comment and let me know what you think. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing. And anything you do to help support the channel, I appreciate it. Thanks again. Bye for now.